The Stratiotis were known for pioneering light cavalry tactics throughout Europe. They employed hit-and-run tactics, ambushes, feigned retreats and other complex maneuvers. In some ways, these tactics echoed those of the Ottoman Akanji. They had some notable successes also against the French heavy cavalry during the Italian wars. In this video we will also look at the campaigns of Peter Bua, a notable Albanian warlord in the area of Morea. At its peak under Italian service, the Stratiotis waged long campaigns, besieged enemy strongholds, and often triumphed through superior numbers. While the Capitularies offer limited insight of their origins, in this video we will reveal the complexities behind the Stratioti cavalry, Europe's best light cavalry of its time. By the late of 1360, two major Albanian principalities in the area of Greece had emerged. The first with its capital in Arta, under Peter Losha, and the second, centered in Angelo Castro, under Jin Shpata. After the death of Peter Losha in 1374, the Albanian despotates of Arta and Angelo Castro were united under the rule of Jin Shpata. The territory of this despotate at its greatest extent between 1374 and 1403 was from the Corinth Gulf to the Akron River in the north, neighboring with the Principality of Gjirokastra of the Zenobisi family, another Albanian state created in the area of Epirus. The despotate of Epirus managed to control in this period only the eastern part of Epirus, with its capital in Yangnina. The city of Arta was relatively unknown during the period of the Albanian rule. Albanian leaders acquired Byzantine titles and tried to adopt Byzantine state structure, while culturally, they maintained to identify themselves as Albanians. Although no architectural activity has been reported during this period, little seems to have changed in Arta, and the Albanian and Greek population coexisted peacefully within the city. During this period, Thomas Preljubović, the despot of Epirus, was in an open conflict with Jin Shpata. In 1375, the Albanian despot started an official campaign against Thomas. The target of the campaign was the capital city of Yangnina. But he could not invade the city, possibly due to lack of resources and manpower. Whatever the case, after the death of Jin Shpata in 1399, the despotate of Arta weakened continuously, and the Shpata family was involved in a civil war. Among the animosities with the rulers of Yangnina, Jin's successor, Murik Shpata, had to deal with the intentions of the Venetians. Venice aimed to extend their maritime trade dominance by securing vital ports and routes, gaining control over local economies, and creating buffer zones against the rising Ottoman state. Meanwhile, Ottoman incursions were intensified in the region, with conquering neighboring states. It is likely during this period that the Stratioti mercenaries were formed. These units continued the military traditions of Byzantine and Balkan cavalry warfare. As such, they had previously served Byzantine and Albanian rulers. They then entered Venetian military service during the Ottoman-Venetian Wars in the 15th century. It has been suggested that a good amount of Albanian Stratioti were the product of the northern Albanian tribal system of feud and consequent emigration. The precise year when the Stratioti units began to be recruited in Western armies is not known. Researches on the origin of their names indicate that around 80% of the Stratioti were of Albanian origin, and very few of Slav origin such as Croatian and Greeks. The Stratioti used javelins, swords, maces, crossbows, bows, and daggers. They traditionally dressed in a mixture of Ottoman, Byzantine and European garb. The armor was initially a simple mail hauberk, replaced by heavier armor in later eras. As mercenaries, the Stratiotis received salaries only as long as their military services were needed. They wore helmets which were known as chasca, from the Spanish word casco. By the end of the 15th century, they also began using gunpowder weapons. Shortly after the fall of Constantinople and the death of the last Byzantine Emperor Constantine, a large-scale revolt broke out among the Morean Albanians against the two Byzantine brothers.
Regardless of their new status under the Sultan, the initiators of the revolt were 30,000 Albanians and Greeks, led by the nobleman Peter Bua. The Albanian chief felt displeased with the over-taxation policies of Thomas and Demetrios, caused by the needs to pay annual tribute to the Turks. Soon, many like-minded Greek-speaking peoples joined the revolt, and they hailed Manuel Cantacuzenios as the new despot of all Morea. Powerless against the revolt, and besieged in their respective capitals, Thomas and Demetrios requested Ottoman intervention in the region to restore order. By 1454, the desperate pleas of the co-despots were answered by Turahan Bey's invasion of Morea. After sacking a few fortresses, the rebels capitulated. Tribute was reinstated to the same levels, and the despots were to continue their vassalage as before. As for the rebel leaders, Peter was pardoned by Mehmed, and later became an ambassador for the Albanian people of Morea. With the end of the Byzantine Empire in 1453, and the breakup of the Despotate of the Morea through civil war between 1450 and 1460, Albanian and Greek Stratioti increasingly found refuge and employment with the Venetians. The Republic of Venice first used Stratioti cavalry in their campaigns against the Ottoman Empire, and from 1475 as frontier troops in Friuli. Starting from that period, they began to almost entirely replace the Venetian light cavalry in the army. During the First Italian War in the year of 1495, Charles of France was the most powerful monarch in medieval Europe. A dreamer who saw himself as the sole savior of Christian Europe, he believed he could roll back the ever-spreading tide of Ottoman Turks' conquests. As a base for his crusade, he was determined to seize southern Italy. His claim on the Kingdom of Naples through his paternal grandmother Marie of Anjou presented such an opportunity. On the 22nd of February of 1495, Charles entered Naples almost without opposition. The speed and violence of the campaign left the Italians stunned. Realization struck them, especially the Venetians, and the new Duke of Milan, Ludovico Sforza. Unless Charles was stopped, Italy would soon become another province of France. The Italian states rallied together, and on March 31st in Venice, the Holy League was proclaimed. The League gathered an army under the condottiero Francesco Gonzaga, Marquis of Mantua. Most of the city-states of the northern Italy, the League of Venice threatened to shut off King Charles' land route by which to return to France. The French king, unwanting to be trapped in Naples, marched north to the area of Lombardy on May 20, 1495, leaving Gilbert the Count of Montpensier in Naples as his viceroy with a substantial garrison. After Ferdinand of Aragon had recovered Naples, with the help of his Spanish relatives with whom he had sought asylum in Sicily, the army of the League followed Charles' retreat northwards through Rome. The Stratioti mercenaries were firstly used at the Battle of Fornovo, Charles' 10,000 against Francesco's 20,000. Prior to the main battle, a small group of French scouting cavalry was sent forward to survey the enemy. The Stratioti, an advance force of the Holy League's army, used their legendary hit-and-run tactics and ambushes. This was a style the French were not accustomed to. The Stratiotis quickly overwhelmed the French reconnaissance force, which was routed in the engagement. Some of the French scouts were captured, providing valuable intelligence to the Holy League forces, including the location of the French king's gunpowder arsenal. The two armies made ready for battle. The Italians formed up their army into three columns. Gonzaga's strategy was to attack the three groups simultaneously, while the two squadrons of Stratioti would circle around and harass the French left flank. During the night, it had rained heavily, making the river Taro, a stream in the summer, a considerable obstacle. The storm continued in the early morning, as this slowed down Gonzaga's main force in the center, as it was forced to cross the river after the left flank, and delayed the attack against the center. In the meantime, the right wing, composed of the Milanese knights, led by the Count of Chiazzo, attacked the vanguard. But after a single attack against the Swiss formation,
they retreated back to the camp. At the same time, the Stratiotis, which should have harassed the flank by this time, they crossed the Taro River and captured the French baggage, which contained a vast amount of loot from the French campaign in Italy, including King Charles' personal crowns and a substantial sum of money. Critically, the Stratiotis became so preoccupied with looting the baggage train that they effectively removed themselves from the main fight. This decision meant they could not be used to press other tactical advantages, which some historians argue that they limited the Italian Holy League's potential for a more decisive victory. Whatever the case, the Italians were dealt defeat, and the French king managed to retreat from the area with the bulk of his force. Starting in 1509, after the outbreak of the Third Italian War, Merkur Bua, the son of Peter Bua, was an Albanian Stratioti captain who was ranked as one of the best generals in Italy. During the outbreak of the war, he carried raids precisely in the territories of that of Venetian Republic, his raids unknown in the country of Bassano, Sove, Caldero, Cittadella, Castelfranco, Nervisa, and near the hills of Montejo. He conquered the castles of Lonigo, where he carried out a horrible massacre by massacring more than 1,500 inhabitants and setting fire to their homes. He also participated in the famous Battle of Agnadello, overwhelming the troops of the Venetian leader, Bartolomeo di Alviano. He would then take part in the sieges of Padua and Treviso. It is perhaps in this period that Maximilian of Habsburg gave Bua the title of Count of the Holy Roman Empire. He distinguished himself in the Battle of Criazzo against the Spaniards, receiving the praise of Alviano. In 1514 he moved towards Polsine and reconquered Rovigo, taking the Spanish commissioner prisoner. Later he carried out other brilliant military operations against Spaniards and Germans, capturing weapons and horses from the enemy. After having sacked the country of Trento, he entered Est, and subsequently flanked Alviano in the new reconquest of Rovigo, previously reoccupied by the Spaniards. Merkur Bua died in Treviso between 1542 and 1545, where earlier he served as captain of a unit of 50 men. After the death of Merkur Bua, the Stratiotis continued to serve in various armies. Their role began to decline later on, as their distinctive military tradition faded. The effectiveness of the Stratioti was dependent on their unique tactics, which were highly effective, but also distinct from conventional European cavalry. As military technology and tactics evolved, the Stratioti specific style of warfare became less dominant, and the need for their specific style of light cavalry decreased. Still, the Stratiotis left their mark on the history of the region, as one of the best European light cavalry during their peak, entering an elite company. We will continue talking about the history of the medieval Albania in the upcoming days. To make sure you don't miss that, subscribe and press the bell button. Consider liking, sharing, as it helps tremendously. This is the Medieval Chronicles channel, and we will see you in the next one.